You'll attract chaos until you understand your own worth. There is a storm that follows you wherever you go. It lives not in the sky above, but in the depths of your soul. And until you turn inward to face what you've been running from, that storm will consume everything you touch. Today we journey into the profound wisdom of Carl Jung, the pioneer who understood that our external chaos is merely a reflection of our internal wilderness. He taught us that we don't attract what we want. We attract who we are. And if we are fractured, fragmented, and disconnected from our own worth, then chaos becomes our constant companion. This is not just another self-help message. This is an invitation to descend into the depths of your psyche, to confront the shadows you've been avoiding, and to emerge transformed. Because as Jung himself said, your vision becomes clear when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. Picture this moment in your life. You're standing in the wreckage of another failed relationship, another missed opportunity, another dream that crumbled in your hands. You look around and wonder, why does this keep happening to me? The answer isn't found in the external circumstances. It's found in the mirror of your soul. Jung discovered through decades of work with the human psyche that we unconsciously recreate patterns that match our internal state. If you carry chaos within, unhealed wounds, unacknowledged pain, unintegrated parts of yourself, you will magnetize chaos without. This isn't punishment from the universe. This is the psyche's attempt to heal itself by bringing the internal conflict into the light of consciousness. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, Jung observed. But here's the deeper truth. Everything that destabilizes us in life can lead us to an understanding of our own fractured relationship with our worth. Think about the last time chaos entered your life. Was it really random? Or was there a part of you that felt undeserving of peace? A part that believed deep down that you weren't worthy of love, success, or happiness? That part of you, the wounded child, the rejected self, the shadow that carries your deepest fears, that part creates the very circumstances that validate its deepest beliefs. This is not about blame. This is about awakening. This is about recognizing that your external reality is a reflection of your internal relationship with yourself. And that relationship for most of us has been wounded since childhood. In Jung's understanding, we all carry what he called the shadow, the parts of ourselves we've rejected, denied, or hidden away. Often these shadow parts contain not just our darkness, but our light. We hide our brilliance as much as we hide our pain because both make us vulnerable. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, Jung wrote, but by making the darkness conscious. And the deepest darkness most of us carry is the belief that we are fundamentally flawed, unworthy, or not enough. This belief system usually forms in childhood. Perhaps you were criticized instead of celebrated. Perhaps your emotional needs were ignored or minimized. Perhaps you learned that love was conditional, something you had to earn through performance, perfection, or people-pleasing. Whatever the origin, these early experiences create internal templates that continue to run your life long into adulthood. When you don't know your own worth, you accept treatment that matches your internal valuation of yourself. You attract partners who are emotionally unavailable because emotionally available love feels foreign to your system. You accept jobs that undervalue your contributions because being undervalued feels familiar. You surround yourself with friends who take more than they give because giving without receiving feels like home. This isn't conscious. This is the unconscious mind's way of maintaining consistency with your deep-seated beliefs about yourself. Jung called this the compensation principle. The psyche will always seek to balance conscious attitudes with unconscious contents. If consciously you want love and success, but unconsciously you believe you don't deserve them, the unconscious will sabotage your conscious desires to maintain internal consistency. Nowhere is this dynamic more apparent than in our closest relationships. Jung understood that we don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with projections. We project onto others the unlived parts of ourselves, both the gold and the shadow. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances, Jung observed. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. but transformation requires consciousness. Without awareness, relationships become repetitive patterns of projection and mutual wounding. When you don't know your worth, you either become the rescuer or the victim in relationships. You either give yourself away completely, hoping your sacrifice will earn love, or you withhold yourself completely, protecting against the vulnerability that intimacy requires. Both strategies are rooted in the same fundamental belief that your authentic self is not worthy of love. The rescuer believes they must earn love through service, sacrifice, and solving other people's problems. They attract people who need fixing, because broken people can't leave them. The victim believes they are powerless to create healthy relationships and attracts people who will validate their powerlessness. Both patterns create chaos, drama, and eventual heartbreak. But here's what Jung understood that many miss. These patterns aren't mistakes. They are your psyche's attempt to heal the original wound. Every chaotic relationship is trying to give you another opportunity to learn that you are worthy of love just as you are. Every drama is trying to teach you that you don't need to sacrifice yourself to be valuable. Every heartbreak is trying to crack open your heart so more light can get. And the question is, will you learn the lesson or will you repeat the pattern? Jung's most revolutionary insight was that our shadow, the parts of ourselves we've rejected, contains not just our darkness, but our power. The gold is in the dark, he said. The very qualities we've learned to hide or suppress often contain our greatest gifts. Maybe you learned that anger was unacceptable, so you buried your righteous fire along with your ability to set boundaries. Maybe you learned that vulnerability was weakness, so you buried your tenderness along with your capacity for intimate connection. Maybe you learned that your dreams were impractical, so you buried your vision along with your creative power. These rejected parts don't disappear. They go underground, into the shadow, where they either sabotage your conscious efforts or create chaos to get your attention. The anger you won't feel directly emerges as passive aggression or attracts aggressive people into your life. The vulnerability you won't show emerges as emotional chaos or attracts people who are emotionally volatile. The dreams you won't pursue haunt you through regret or manifest as attraction to unstable, impractical people. This is why Jung said, "I would rather be whole than good." Wholeness requires integrating all parts of yourself, not just the parts that are socially acceptable. When you reclaim your shadow, you reclaim your power. When you stop running from the rejected parts of yourself, they stop chasing you through chaotic external circumstances. The journey to understanding your worth requires what Jung called the descent. You must be willing to go down into the depths of your psyche, to face the pain you've been avoiding, to feel the feelings you've been numbing, to acknowledge the parts of yourself you've been rejecting. This descent is not comfortable. It requires you to sit with uncertainty, to feel your feelings without immediately trying to fix or change them, to acknowledge truths about yourself and your life that you may have been avoiding for years. The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are, Jung reminded us. But becoming who you are requires shedding who you thought you had to be. It requires releasing the masks you've worn, the roles you've played, the identities you've constructed to feel safe or accepted or loved. This process often feels like death because, in a way, it is. You are allowing the false self, the one, built on wounds and conditioning and other people's expectations, to die so that your true self can be born. And birth, whether physical or psychological, involves labor pains. During this descent, you may find yourself temporarily more chaos than usual. This is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. This is a sign that your psyche is reorganizing itself at a deeper level. Old patterns are breaking down before new ones can form. Jung called this process enantiodromia, the tendency of things to turn into their opposite. The chaos you experienced during awakening is different from the chaos you experienced while sleeping. The chaos of awakening is purposeful, transformative, temporary. The chaos of sleeping is repetitive, destructive, endless. One leads to integration and wholeness. The other leads to more fragmentation and suffering. Jung was deeply influenced by the ancient art of alchemy, the process of transforming base metals into gold. He saw psychological development as a similar process, transforming the base material of our wounded, unconscious patterns into the gold of conscious, integrated wholeness. Understanding your worth is an alchemical process. You take the raw material of your pain, your patterns, your shadow parts, and through the fire of consciousness, you transform them into wisdom, strength, and authentic self-love. This transformation doesn't happen through positive thinking or affirmations, though these can be helpful tools. It happens through what Jung called active imagination, the process of consciously engaging with the unconscious parts of yourself through dialogue, visualization, creative expression, and deep inner work. You might imagine having a conversation with the part of you that feels unworthy, asking it where it learned to feel this way and what it needs to feel safe. You might visualize the wounded child within you and offer it the love and validation it never received. You might express your shadow parts through art, writing, or movement, giving them a voice instead of keeping them buried. As you do this work, something magical begins to happen. The parts of yourself that you've been fighting begin to relax. The energy you've been using to suppress or hide aspects of yourself becomes available for creative expression and authentic living. The chaos that has been following you begins to settle because you're no longer at war with yourself. This is when you begin to understand, not just intellectually but experientially, that you are worthy of love, respect, success, and happiness, not because of what you do or achieve, but because of who you are at your core. As you integrate your shadow and reclaim your worth, your external reality begins to shift. This isn't magic, though it can feel magical. This is psychology. When you change your internal relationship with yourself, you automatically change what you accept, what you seek, and what you attract. Jung understood that like attracts like on a vibrational level. When you carry chaos within, internal conflict, self-rejection, unconscious wounds, you vibrate at the frequency of chaos and attract chaotic circumstances and people. When you carry wholeness within, self-acceptance, integrated parts, conscious awareness, you vibrate at the frequency of wholeness and attract more whole circumstances and people. This doesn't mean life becomes perfect. It means life becomes workable. Challenges still arise, but they don't destabilize you because you have a solid foundation of self-worth to stand on. Difficult people still cross your path, but they don't derail you because you're not looking to them to define your value. Disappointments still occur, but they don't devastate you because your worth isn't dependent on external outcomes. When you know your worth, you set boundaries naturally because you can't accept treatment that contradicts your self-knowledge. You choose relationships consciously because you're not desperately seeking validation or avoiding abandonment. You pursue goals authentically because you're following your true calling rather than trying to prove your value. Jung called the process of becoming whole individuation, the journey of integrating all aspects of yourself into a conscious, unified personality. This is not about becoming perfect or eliminating all problems from your life. This is about becoming authentic, integrated, and genuinely self-possessed. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, Jung observed. But it's also the most liberating thing. When you accept yourself completely, light and shadow, strengths and weaknesses, gifts and flaws, you no longer need external validation to feel whole. This journey is not linear. You don't simply heal your wounds once and move on. Individuation is a spiral path where you encounter the same themes at deeper and deeper levels throughout your life. Each encounter offers an opportunity for greater integration, greater wholeness, greater authentic self-expression. The difference is that as you mature psychologically, you don't get derailed by these encounters. You recognize them as opportunities for growth rather than threats to your stability. You welcome the descent because you know it leads to ascent. You embrace the chaos because you know it leads to integration. This is how you become a person who attracts harmony instead of chaos, love instead of drama, opportunity instead of obstacle. Not because you've eliminated all challenges from your life, but because you've developed the internal resources to meet whatever arises with presence, wisdom, and grace. In Jungian psychology, There is a concept called the sacred marriage, or hieros gamos, the union of opposites within the psyche. This is the marriage between your masculine and feminine aspects, your light and shadow parts, your conscious and unconscious minds. When this internal marriage occurs, you become complete within yourself. You no longer seek your other half in another person because you've found wholeness within. You no longer project your unlived life onto others because you're living your authentic life yourself. This doesn't mean you don't desire intimate relationships. It means you desire them from wholeness rather than neediness, from choice rather than compulsion, from love rather than fear. You become capable of what Jung called psychological relationship, connection between two whole people rather than two incomplete halves trying to make a whole. When you understand your worth at this level, chaos loses its appeal. Drama becomes boring. Complexity that doesn't serve growth becomes unnecessary. You naturally gravitate toward people and situations that support your highest expression because anything less feels like a betrayal of your hard-won self-knowledge. Jung also understood that our personal healing contributes to collective healing. The chaos in the world is, in part, a reflection of the collective shadow, all the unlived, unintegrated, unconscious material of humanity as a whole. When you do your inner work, when you integrate your shadow and claim your worth, you're not just healing yourself. You're contributing to the healing of the collective. You become a light in the darkness, a calm in the storm, a demonstration of what's possible when human beings choose consciousness over unconsciousness. If you want to change the world, start with yourself, Jung advised. This isn't just a nice platitude. This is practical psychology. The world you experience is largely a projection of your internal state. As you heal your internal chaos, you contribute to healing the external chaos. This gives your personal journey cosmic significance. Your healing matters not just for you, but for everyone whose life you touch. Your journey from chaos to wholeness becomes a beacon for others who are ready to make the same journey. In mythology, the hero's journey always includes a return. The hero comes back to the ordinary world transformed and brings gifts to their community. Your psychological journey follows the same pattern. After you've descended into your depths, faced your shadow, integrated your rejected parts, and claimed your worth, you return to ordinary life. But you return transformed. You bring the gift of your wholeness to a world that desperately needs examples of integrated human beings. This return isn't always easy. Sometimes the people around you aren't ready for your transformation. Sometimes your newfound boundaries challenge existing relationship dynamics. Sometimes your authenticity makes others uncomfortable with their own masks, but you no longer betray yourself to keep others comfortable. You no longer sacrifice your truth to maintain false peace. You no longer accept chaos to avoid the discomfort of setting boundaries. You've learned that your worth isn't up for negotiation, and this knowledge changes everything. Understanding your worth doesn't mean you have all the answers. In fact, Jung believed that the more conscious we become, the more we appreciate the mystery of existence. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious, he said. Your worth isn't based on your ability to control life or eliminate all uncertainty. Your worth is inherent, unconditional and unchanging regardless of circumstances. This knowledge allows you to embrace life's mysteries with curiosity rather than anxiety, to meet uncertainty with trust rather than fear. When you know you're worthy of love, you can love without guarantee of return. When you know you're worthy of respect, you can respect others without needing their approval. When you know you're worthy of success, you can pursue your dreams without attachment to specific outcomes. This is the paradox Jung understood. The more you claim your worth, the less you need to prove it. The more you love yourself, the more love you have to give. The more whole you become, the more you can embrace the brokenness of the world with compassion. True integration means that your understanding of your worth becomes so deeply embodied that you don't have to think about it anymore. It's not a concept you hold or an affirmation you repeat. It's a lived reality that informs every choice, every relationship, every response to life's challenges. When you reach this level of integration, You don't attract chaos because chaos is incompatible with the frequency of wholeness you embody. You might encounter chaotic situations, but you don't create them, participate in them, or get swept away by them. This is when you become what Jung called individuated, not perfect but authentic, not problem-free but resourceful, not invulnerable but resilient, not superior to others, but sovereign within yourself. From this place of sovereignty, you can engage with life fully without losing yourself. You can love deeply without losing your identity. You can pursue your dreams passionately without sacrificing your values. You can face challenges courageously without abandoning your truth. Understanding. Your worth is not a one-time realization, but a daily practice. Every day you have opportunities to choose wholeness over fragmentation, authenticity over performance, self-love over self-criticism. Sometimes this means saying no to opportunities that don't align with your values. Sometimes it means saying yes to possibilities that scare you but excite your soul. Sometimes it means sitting with uncomfortable feelings without immediately trying to escape or fix them. The practice is not about perfection, it's about awareness. When you notice yourself slipping into old patterns of self-rejection or chaos, creation, you gently redirect yourself back to the truth of your worth. You become your own loving parent, your own wise guide, your own best friend. Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Every moment offers you the choice to align with your worth or betray it, to act from wholeness or from woundedness, to create harmony or attract chaos. As you consistently choose to embody your worth, you create ripple effects that extend far beyond your personal life. Your children learn what healthy self-respect looks like. Your friends experience what authentic relationship feels like. Your colleagues witness what integrity in action looks like. You become a permission slip for others to claim their own worth. Your journey from chaos to wholeness gives others hope that their own transformation is possible. Your light illuminates the path for those ready to make their own descent into authenticity. This is how personal healing becomes collective healing. This is how individual transformation contributes to cultural evolution. This is how one person's commitment to wholeness creates waves of positive change that reach shores they'll never see. Your worth, fully claimed and embodied, becomes a gift to the world. Not because you're better than others, but because you're more fully yourself. Not because you have more value than others, but because you've stopped hiding your inherent value. At the deepest level, Jung understood that our worth is not personal but transpersonal. We are worthy not because of our individual achievements or qualities, but because we are expressions of the divine creative force that animates all life. You are not just the drop in the ocean, he might say, but the entire ocean in each drop. Your worth is cosmic, infinite and shared with every other conscious being. Understanding this dissolves the competitive, comparative mindset that creates so much suffering. When you truly grasp this truth, compassion flows naturally. How can you judge others harshly when you recognize that their worth is as infinite and inherent as your own? How can you accept less than loving treatment when you understand that you are a unique expression of the sacred? This recognition transforms not just how you see yourself, but how you see everyone. The person who triggers you is also a divine expression working through their own patterns. The situation that challenges you is also an opportunity for deeper awakening. Paradoxically, fully claiming your worth requires surrendering your ego's need to prove your worth. You must let go of the exhausting effort to earn value through achievement, approval, or perfection. You must surrender the story that your worth is conditional or temporary. This surrender is not passive resignation, but active trust. You trust that your worth is given, not earned. You trust that your value is inherent, not acquired. You trust that your place in the universe is secured by your very existence, not by your performance. The most important question anyone can ask is, what myth am I living? Jung said. When you surrender the myth that you must earn your worth, you can live the truth that you are worthy by nature. This shift in fundamental mythology changes everything. From this place of surrendered trust, action becomes effortless rather than effortful. You no longer struggle to prove yourself because there's nothing to prove. You no longer fight for recognition because you recognize yourself. You no longer chase love because you know you are love itself, temporarily forgetting its own nature. As you consistently choose the path of worth over the path of chaos, something beautiful begins to emerge. You discover talents you didn't know you had. You find courage you didn't know you possessed. You access wisdom you didn't know was available. This isn't because you've acquired these qualities through your healing work. It's because you've removed the barriers that were preventing their natural expression. Like clearing debris from a river allows the water to flow freely. Clearing psychological debris allows your essential nature to shine forth. You begin to live what Jung called the life unlived, the authentic existence that's been waiting beneath all your conditioning, patterns, and protective strategies. This life doesn't look like anyone else's because it's uniquely yours. It carries your signature, your essence, your unrepeatable contribution to the human symphony. Living this authentic life doesn't guarantee ease, but it guarantees meaning. It doesn't eliminate all problems, but it makes all experiences opportunities for deeper self-realization. It doesn't protect you from pain, but it ensures that your pain serves growth rather than destruction. Right now, in this moment, you stand at a crossroads. You can continue the old pattern, attracting chaos because some part of you believes that's all you deserve, or you can accept the invitation to discover what happens when you fully claim your worth. This invitation isn't theoretical. It's practical. It requires you to make different choices starting today. When someone treats you poorly, instead of wondering what you did wrong, you can ask what boundary you need to set. When an opportunity arises that aligns with your dreams, instead of listing all the reasons you're not qualified, you can ask what steps you need to take. The journey from chaos to wholeness doesn't require you to have it all figured out. It requires you to be willing to figure it out as you go. It requires courage, not certainty. It requires commitment, not perfection. It requires faith in your inherent worth, not proof of your earned value. Jung spent his entire career studying what happens when human beings choose consciousness over unconsciousness, integration over fragmentation, authenticity over performance. The results are consistently remarkable. Not easy, but remarkable. Not immediate, but inevitable. Here is Jung's promise, verified through decades of psychological research and countless individual journeys. When you truly understand your worth, you stop attracting chaos not because chaos fears you, but because you no longer vibrate at the frequency that chaos recognizes. You become like a tuning fork that vibrates at the frequency of wholeness. Other people and situations that vibrate at similar frequencies are naturally drawn to you. Those that vibrate at chaotic frequencies either transform in your presence or naturally move away. This isn't about becoming perfect or eliminating all challenges from your life. This is about becoming genuinely yourself, integrated, authentic, and worthy of the love, respect, and opportunities that your true nature attracts. The chaos will settle, the drama will resolve, the patterns will transform. Not because you've forced change, but because you've aligned with your true nature. And your true nature is worthy, whole, and inherently valuable. As we near the end of this journey together, let us rest in the profound truth that Jung spent his lifetime exploring. You are not broken and in need of fixing. You are whole and in need of remembering. The chaos you've experienced hasn't been your enemy. It's been your teacher, showing you where you've forgotten your worth, where you've abandoned yourself, where you've accepted less than what your soul knows it deserves. Every moment of chaos has been an invitation to come home to yourself. Every difficult relationship has been a mirror reflecting the parts of yourself that need integration. Every challenge has been an opportunity to choose self-love over self-abandonment. Now you know. The chaos was never about punishment. It was about awakening. The difficulties were never about unworthiness. They were about remembering your worth. The journey was never about becoming someone different. It was about becoming who you've always been beneath all the conditioning and wounds and protective strategies. Jung understood what the mystics have always known. At your core, you are already whole. At your essence, you are already worthy. At your deepest level, you are already everything you've been seeking outside yourself. The journey of psychological development is not about acquiring worth, but about uncovering it. Not about earning love, but about recognizing that you are loved, temporarily playing at being separate from itself. Not about achieving wholeness, but about realizing you were never actually broken. Take a moment now to feel into this truth. Beneath all your stories about inadequacy, feel the unwavering presence of your essential worth. Beneath all your fears about not being enough, feel the quiet confidence of your inherent completeness. Beneath all your struggles to prove your value, feel the peaceful knowing that your value was never in question. This knowing changes everything. When you truly feel your worth, you can't accept treatment that contradicts it. When you truly know your value, you can't participate in situations that diminish it. When you truly understand your wholeness, you can't create chaos, because chaos cannot exist in the presence of integrated awareness. This is not positive thinking. This is not wishful hoping. This is psychological truth verified through Jung's research, confirmed by countless therapeutic journeys, and available to anyone willing to look deeply enough within themselves to find it. Your worth is not a belief you must maintain or an affirmation you must repeat. Your worth is a reality you must uncover, a truth you must remember, a fact you must finally stop arguing with. From this place of recognized worth, you naturally make choices that honor your value. You naturally attract people who can recognize and respect your worth. You naturally create circumstances that reflect your internal state of wholeness and integration. The chaos ends not because you've learned to control it, but because you've learned to stop creating it. The drama dissolves not because you've learned to avoid it, but because you've learned to stop participating in it. The patterns transform not because you've forced them to change, but because you've changed the internal template from which they arise. Jung understood that psychological development follows the pattern of what he called the eternal return. We cycle through the same themes at deeper and deeper levels throughout our lives. This means your journey with worth is never complete, but it also means every return offers an opportunity for deeper integration. Each time you encounter a situation that challenges your sense of worth, you have the opportunity to choose differently. Each time old patterns of chaos arise, you have the chance to respond from wholeness rather than woundedness. Each time life invites you to abandon yourself, you can choose to come home to yourself instead. This cyclical nature isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. It ensures that you have unlimited opportunities to deepen your relationship with your own worth, to strengthen your capacity for self-love, to expand your ability to live authentically. The difference is that as you mature psychologically, each cycle becomes less chaotic and more graceful. You recognize the patterns earlier. You choose differently more quickly. You return to center with greater ease. Eventually, you become someone who can hold space for others in their chaos without getting pulled into it. You become a calm presence in the storm, a lighthouse for those lost at sea, a demonstration that it's possible to live from worth rather than woundedness. Your life becomes a living prayer when you consistently choose to embody your worth. Every choice you make from self-love is a sacred act. Every boundary you set from self-respect is a holy declaration. Every dream you pursue from authentic desire is an offering to the divine creativity that flows through you. Jung understood that the psychological and the spiritual are not separate realms, but different aspects of the same reality. When you heal psychologically, you grow spiritually. When you integrate your shadow, you embody more light. When you claim your worth, you express the sacred nature of all existence. This understanding transforms your daily life into a spiritual practice. Brushing your teeth becomes an act of self-care that honors your worth. Setting a boundary becomes a sacred act of self-protection. Pursuing your dreams becomes a form of worship, honoring the creative force that dreams through you. When your life becomes a living prayer in this way, chaos naturally dissolves because chaos cannot coexist with sacred intention. Drama naturally resolves because drama cannot survive in the presence of divine consciousness. Patterns naturally transform because they must align with the higher frequency you consistently embody. What Jung called individuation is really a great remembering who you were before the world told you who to be, remembering your worth before you learned to question it, remembering your wholeness before you believed you were broken. This remembering isn't a return to childish innocence but an arrival at mature authenticity. You reclaim your essential nature, not by becoming naive again, but by becoming wise enough to distinguish between what's yours and what was imposed upon you. You remember that your worth was never dependent on external validation because you came into this world worthy. You remember that your value was never earned through achievement because you were valuable before you ever did anything. You remember that your lovability was never conditional because love is your essential nature, not something you acquire. This great remembering heals not just your personal wounds, but ancestral patterns that have been passed down through generations. When you reclaim your worth, you break chains of unworthiness that may have affected your family line for decades or centuries. You become an ancestor to future generations who will never have to question their worth because you questioned yours deeply enough to discover the truth. You become a healer not just for yourself, but for all those whose lives you touch. You become a way shower for those ready to remember their own inherent value. Here is the ultimate paradox Jung understood. The more you realize your individual worth, the more you realize your unity with all existence. The more you claim your unique value, the more you recognize the equal value of every other being. The more you love yourself authentically, the more authentic love you have available for others. This isn't narcissism or spiritual materialism. This is the natural result of psychological wholeness. When you're no longer depleted by self-rejection, you have energy available for genuine service. When you're no longer fragmented by internal conflict, you can show up whole for others. When you're no longer seeking worth externally, you can offer worth to others freely. This is how personal healing becomes collective healing. This is how individual transformation serves universal evolution. This is how your journey from chaos to worth contributes to the healing of our troubled world. You don't have to become a teacher or healer in the conventional sense. You serve simply by being who you truly are, worthy, whole, and integrated. Your presence becomes a permission slip for others. Your authenticity becomes an invitation for others to be authentic. Your worth becomes a reminder for others of their own inherent value. In this moment, right now, as you listen to these words, you have the opportunity to make a choice that could change the entire trajectory of your life. You can choose to believe in your worth